Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Horizon and watched the stars. For 3 months, his ship had traveled through empty space. Earth was now so far away that their home sun looked like just another dot of light. Jake had dreamed of this moment since he was a boy. Humanity was finally reaching for the stars. "Captain, we're getting something strange on the sensors," called out Lieutenant Ben Rogers from his station. The young officer's voice carried excitement and worry. At the same time, Jake walked over to look at the readings. The screen showed a large object moving through space about 2 million kilometers away. It was too big to be an asteroid, and too regular in shape to be natural. Jake felt his heart beat faster. After all these years of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they might finally have their answer. "Dr. Webb, please come to the bridge." Jake said into his communicator. Dr. Lisa Webb arrived within minutes. She was Earth's best expert on alien life, even though she had never actually seen any. Her job was to figure out how to talk to aliens if they ever found them. Now that moment might have come. "What do you think, Doctor?" Jake asked, pointing at the screen. Lisa studied the readings carefully. "It's definitely artificial. The shape is too perfect, and it's moving in a straight line. Captain, I think we're looking at our first alien spacecraft." The bridge went quiet. Every person there understood they were witnessing history. Jake made his decision quickly. "Set course to intercept, but keep our distance. And send the message to Earth. Tell them we may have found what we came looking for." As the horizon moved closer, the alien ship became clearer on their screens. It was beautiful in a strange way. The hull was smooth and curved like a seashell, colored in shades of blue and green. It was about twice the size of their own ship. "Captain, they're scanning us," reported Commander Rick Stone, Jake's second in command. Rick was a military man who always expected trouble. "Their scanners are more advanced than ours, but they don't seem hostile." "Any signs they're trying to communicate?" Jake asked. "Nothing yet, sir." "But wait, ... Ben's fingers moved quickly over his controls. "I'm getting something now. It's not radio. They're using some kind of light pattern." Dr. Webb stepped forward, put it on the main screen. The view screen filled with patterns of colored light that pulsed and changed. It was clearly artificial, but unlike anything humans had ever seen. Lisa watched the patterns carefully, taking notes on her tablet. "It's repeating," she said after several minutes. "See how the blue lights always come before the green ones? And there's a mathematical sequence in the timing. They're trying to show us they're intelligent." Jake nodded. "Can we respond?" "I think so." "Ben, can you control our running lights from your station?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Let's start simple. Flash our lights in the same mathematical sequence they showed us." For the next hour, the two ships exchanged light patterns. Slowly, Dr. Webb began to understand the basic structure of the alien language. The breakthrough came when the aliens sent them images. "Captain, look at this," Lisa said, pointing to her screen. The aliens had sent a picture of their own ship, then a picture of space around them, then what looked like a star map. "They're telling us where they come from," Jake realized. The aliens sent more images. Pictures of their world, which was mostly covered in water. Pictures of themselves, which made everyone on the bridge gasp. The aliens looked like large dolphins, but with long arms that ended in delicate hands. They had big, intelligent eyes, and seemed to move through water as easily as humans move through air. "They're aquatic," Dr. Webb said with wonder. "A water-based civilization that somehow learned to travel between stars." The aliens sent one more image that changed everything. It showed dozens of different alien species standing together. Some looked like giant insects, others like walking crystals, and still others that were too strange to describe. At the center of the image was a symbol that appeared on all their ships and buildings. "It's a government," Rick said quietly. "They're showing us they're part of something bigger." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Humanity had just discovered they were not alone in the universe. Not only that, but there was already an established galactic civilization out there. The alien ship began moving closer. Jake tensed, but their new friend sent another light pattern that Dr. Webb translated as peaceful greetings. When the ships were only a few hundred meters apart, the alien vessel opened what was clearly a docking port. "They want us to come aboard," Lisa said. Jake looked around his bridge. Every face showed the same mixture of excitement and fear that he felt. This was the moment that would change humanity forever. "Prepare a boarding party," he ordered. Dr. Webb, Commander Stone, and myself. Full environmental suits, and bring the translation computer. An hour later, Jake found himself floating in an airlock filled with warm, salty water. Through the clear walls, he could see 3 aliens waiting for them. They were even more beautiful than in the pictures, their skin shimmering with patterns of blue and silver. The largest alien approached Jake and made a complex gesture with its hands. Through speakers in the water, Jake heard sounds like whale songs mixed with musical notes. Dr. Webb's computer worked frantically to translate. "Welcome, young swimmers from the dry world," the computer finally said. "We are the SCI-FI. We have waited long to meet you." Jake tried to reply through the computer. "We are humans from Earth. We come in peace." The alien that had spoken gestured to itself. "I am Zethtar, a speaker for my people. Your species has taken its first steps into the great ocean of stars. This is a day of celebration." Over the next several hours, Jake, Lisa, and Rick learned about the galactic civilization. The SCI-FI explained that they were part of something called the Galactic Council, a group of 12 advanced species that governed most of the galaxy. Younger species could apply to join if they proved themselves worthy. "Your species shows great promise," Zethtar told them. "The SCI-FI would be honored to sponsor your application to the Council. With our support, humanity could join the galactic community within a few years." Jake felt hope growing in his chest. What would membership mean for us? Protection, trade, access to advanced technology, and friendship with species across the galaxy, Zethtar replied. "But I must warn you, young Jake Morrison. Not all council members welcome new species. Some believe the galaxy is already crowded enough." Lisa leaned forward. "Are you saying some would oppose us?" Zethtar's large eyes grew sad. "There are those who prefer the old ways, but do not fear. The SCI-FI have been council members for 200 years. Our word carries weight." As the meeting ended and the humans prepared to return to their ship, Zethtar gave Jake a small device. "This will allow instant communication between our peoples. Use it to contact us when you are ready to begin the application process." Jake shook the alien's strange, webbed hand. "Thank you, Zethtar. You've given humanity a gift beyond measure." Back on the horizon, Jake stood on the bridge and watched the SCI-FI ship disappear into hyperspace. Around him, his crew was already preparing reports to send back to Earth. Soon, every human would know that they were no longer alone. Jake smiled as he thought about the future. Humanity was about to join a galactic civilization. They would have alien friends, advanced technology, and protection from threats they couldn't even imagine yet. Earth's children would grow up knowing they were part of something vast and wonderful. He had no way of knowing that in less than 3 years, he would watch those same alien friends die, screaming in the fires of genocide. He could not imagine that the hope burning in his chest would turn to rage that would reshape the galaxy itself. For now, Jake Morrison was just a human captain who had made first contact with aliens. The universe seemed full of infinite possibilities, and humanity was ready to embrace them all. 6 months had passed since first contact, and Earth had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Dr. Lisa Webb now sat in an office that didn't exist before the Zelithy arrived. The Department of Galactic Affairs occupied an entire building. In Geneva, with flags from dozens of Earth nations flying alongside, a new banner showing humanity's first steps into space, Lisa looked at the reports covering her desk. Applications from thousands of humans who wanted to learn alien languages, military assessments of galactic technology, economic projections for trade with other worlds. Everything was moving so fast it made her head spin. Director Webb, Ambassador. Nash is ready for his briefing, her assistant announced. Kyle Nash entered the office wearing Earth's first diplomatic uniform, designed for alien contact. He was a career diplomat who had volunteered for the most important assignment in human history. In 2 days, he would travel to the galactic capital world of Nexus Prime for preliminary hearings about humanity's application to join the Galactic Council. "How are you feeling, Kyle?" Lisa asked. "Nervous," he admitted. "I've studied every piece of information the Zelithy gave us about Council procedures. But actually standing in front of representatives from 12 alien species? That's something else entirely." Lisa nodded. "Remember, you're not just representing Earth. You're representing the idea that young species deserve a chance to prove themselves. The Zelithy believe in us. That has to count for something." Kyle picked up a thick folder from Lisa's desk. Inside were detailed proposals for how humanity would contribute to galactic civilization. Medical research, artistic works, scientific innovations, and military support, if needed. Earth's best minds had worked for months to put together the strongest possible application. "The Zelithy have been good to us," Kyle said. "Zethtar personally guaranteed that their delegation will support our membership. But what about the others?" Lisa pulled up a holographic display that showed the 12 council species. 8 of them seemed neutral or mildly positive. "They're willing to give us a chance if we can prove we're civilized and useful." "And the other 4? Lisa's expression darkened. "The hegemony. 4 species that have been allied for over 1,000 years. They call themselves the Guardians of Galactic Order. According to our intelligence, they think the galaxy is already too crowded with young species." Kyle studied the images of the hegemony representatives. The Vorthic looked like giant spiders made of metal. The Krell resembled armored bears with multiple arms. The Zephyrians were tall and thin with skin like black glass. The Drakmor were the worst, reptilian creatures with dead eyes and a reputation for cruelty. "What's their objection to us specifically?" Kyle asked. "They say we're too aggressive, too quick to resort to violence. They point to our wars, our weapons, our military history." Lisa sighed. "They conveniently ignore the fact that we've also produced great art, literature, and science, or that we've been trying to move beyond our violent past." A communication device on Lisa's desk chimed with an incoming message. The holographic image of Zethtar appeared above the device. The Zelithy looked worried. "Friend Lisa, I bring troubling news," Zethtar said. "Our deep space monitors have detected unusual ship movements near hegemony space. Large military formations are conducting exercises near our outer colonies." Lisa felt a chill. "What kind of exercises?" "A type usually used to practice orbital bombardment," Zethtar replied. "Our council representative has asked for an explanation, but the hegemony claims they are routine training missions." Kyle leaned forward. "Do you think this has anything to do with our application?" "I fear it might," Zethtar admitted. "The hegemony has been vocal about their opposition to admitting humanity. They may be trying to intimidate us into withdrawing our support." After ending the call, Lisa immediately contacted Admiral Paul Grant at Earth's Expanding Space Command. The Admiral appeared on her screen, wearing the blue uniform of the new Terran Defense Force. "Admiral, we may have a problem," Lisa began, and explained the Zealothy's concerns. Grant's weathered face grew serious. "How many ships are we talking about?" Zethtar didn't give specific numbers, but he seemed genuinely worried. The Zealothy aren't easily frightened. "What's our current military position in that region?" Grant asked. Lisa pulled up a star map. "We have 3 patrol ships in the general area. The U's Defiance, under Captain Morrison's command, is the largest." "That's not much if the hegemony decides to make trouble," Grant said grimly. "I'll order 2 more ships to join Morrison's patrol, but Lisa, we need to be realistic. If the hegemony wants to threaten the Zealothy, there's not much we can do to stop them." The next day, Ambassador Nash departed for Nexus Prime aboard a Zealothy transport. Lisa watched his ship disappear into hyperspace and wondered if she was sending him into a trap. On Nexus Prime, Kyle found himself standing in the most impressive building he had ever seen. The council chambers were carved from a single massive crystal that grew from the planet's surface. Each of the 12 council species had their own section designed for their specific needs. The Zealothy area was flooded with water, while the silicon-based Lithians had chambers filled with superheated gases. Kyle took his place in the center of the chamber, designed for species that breathed oxygen and lived in normal gravity. Around him, 12 different types of aliens studied humanity's application. The proceedings began with Zethtar presenting humanity's case. The Zealothy spoke eloquently about human achievements, their potential contributions to galactic civilization, and their peaceful intentions. Several council members asked thoughtful questions about human society and culture. Then the hegemony began their opposition. Drakmor warlord Scarth spoke first. His voice was like grinding stone. "This species has spent its entire history killing its own kind. They have weapons that can destroy entire continents. They wage war for resources, territory, and ideology. Why should we trust such creatures?" Kyle stood to respond. "Honored warlord, humanity has indeed known war. But we have also known peace. We've learned from our mistakes and built institutions to prevent conflict. Our application includes detailed proposals for peaceful cooperation and mutual benefit." Vorthik Hive Queen Zareth clicked her mandibles dismissively. "Young species always promise peace when they want something. Once they gain power, their true nature emerges. The galaxy has seen this pattern before." The debate continued for hours. Kyle presented humanity's achievements in science, art, and philosophy. He spoke about Earth's efforts to explore space peacefully and to learn from other civilizations. But for every positive point he made, the hegemony found a negative counter-argument. Finally, Krell General Thorgrim spoke the words Kyle had been dreading. "The hegemony formally objects to this application. We believe humanity is not ready for galactic citizenship. We recommend a minimum waiting period of 50 years while they prove their commitment to peace." Kyle felt his heart sink. 50 years would be a lifetime for most humans alive today. It would delay humanity's entry into galactic civilization by generations. Zethtar requested a recess, and the council agreed to reconvene in 3 days. During the break, Kyle met privately with representatives from the neutral species. Most were sympathetic to humanity's cause, but none wanted to directly oppose the hegemony. "They are old and powerful," explained Christarch Lumina of the Ethereals. "When they speak of maintaining galactic order, others listen. Perhaps if humanity could demonstrate their peaceful intentions more clearly." Kyle spent 2 sleepless nights trying to think of ways to address the hegemony's concerns. But how could humanity prove they were peaceful when the hegemony seemed determined to find fault with everything they did? On the 3rd day, Kyle received an urgent message from Dr. Webb on Earth. The communication was scrambled and brief. Zelathi colonies under threat. Hegemony fleet movements increasing. Return. Home immediately. Kyle stood before the council one final time. Honored representatives, Earth appreciates the time you have given to our application. However, recent events require me to return home for consultations with my government. We respectfully request that this matter be postponed until we can address the concerns that have been raised. As Kyle left Nexus Prime, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had failed humanity. The dream of joining the galactic community seemed further away than ever. Meanwhile, in space near the Zelathi colonies, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched hegemony warships move into attack positions. His small fleet was vastly outnumbered, but Jake had received orders to protect Zelathi civilians if possible. Captain, the Zelathi are requesting immediate evacuation support, reported his communications officer. Jake looked at the tactical display. 40 hegemony ships against his 3 vessels. If shooting started, it would be over quickly. Send a message to the hegemony fleet, Jake ordered. Tell them they are in violation of Zelathi space and should withdraw immediately. The response came back within minutes. Human vessel, you are ordered to withdraw from this region. Hegemony forces are conducting legitimate military exercises. Any interference will be considered an act of war. Jake gripped the arms of his command chair. Everything Dr. Webb had worked for, everything Ambassador Nash had tried to achieve, was about to be destroyed. But he could not abandon. The attack began at dawn on the Zelathi homeworld of Aquatica. Captain Jake Morrison was still 3 hours away when the first reports reached his ship. His communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Jones, turned pale as she read the incoming messages. Captain, we're getting emergency signals from the Zelathi capital, she said, her voice shaking. Multiple ships are attacking the planet. Jake rushed to the tactical display. Red dots representing enemy vessels surrounded Aquatica like a swarm of angry insects. Each dot was a hegemony warship, and there were hundreds of them. How many? Jake asked, though he dreaded the answer. Sensors show over 300 ships in the first wave, reported Commander Rick Stone. Sir, that's not a military operation. That's genocide, Jake finished grimly. He opened communications to his small fleet. All ships, maximum speed to Aquatica. I don't care if we burn out the engines. The UE's Defiance and her 2 escort. Ships pushed their engines beyond safe limits. Behind them, 3 more Earth vessels were racing to join them, but they were days away. Jake knew his 6 ships would make no difference against a fleet of hundreds, but he could not abandon the ZLATHI. As they drew closer to Aquatica, the horrific scope of the attack became clear. The planet's beautiful blue oceans were turning black with smoke and debris. Hegemony ships hung in orbit like vultures, their energy weapons carving massive wounds in the planet's surface. Dear God, whispered Dr. Tony Clark, the fleet's science officer, they're boiling the oceans. Jake watched in horror as the hegemony fleet systematically destroyed every Zelathi city. The aquatic aliens had built their civilization in harmony with their world's vast oceans. Now those same oceans were becoming their grave. Sir, we're getting a transmission from the surface, Sarah reported. It's Zethtar. The image that appeared on the screen broke Jake's heart. Zethtar floated in water that was now dark with ash and blood. Behind him, Jake could see other Zelathi trying desperately to save their young. The elder's normally bright skin was gray with shock and pain. Friend Jake, Zethtar said, his voice barely audible. They came without warning. No declaration of war. No demands for surrender. They simply began killing us all. We're coming to get you, Jake promised. Hold on just a little longer. Zethtar's large eyes filled with sadness. There is no time, young swimmer. Our cities are gone. Our people are dying. But you must know the truth. He held up a small crystal device. This contains proof of what they have done. Evidence that this was planned long before your people applied to the council. The transmission cut to static as another wave of energy weapons struck the area where Zithtar had been hiding. Jake turned to his tactical officer. How close can we get to the planet? The hegemony fleet is spread thin, Lieutenant Ben Rogers replied. If we come in fast and low, we might be able to reach the northern continent before they react. Do it. The 3 Earth ships dove toward Aquatica like meteors. Hegemony vessels immediately moved to intercept them, but Jake's gamble paid off. They reached the planet's surface before the enemy could organize a proper response. What Jake found, it would haunt him for the rest of his life. The Zealothi had built their cities as underwater gardens, filled with coral structures and flowing currents. Now those cities were graveyards. Bodies of Zealothi civilians floated everywhere, many of them children who had never had a chance to swim free in the open ocean. Search and rescue teams, deploy immediately, Jake ordered. Find any survivors you can. For 6 desperate hours, Jake's Marines combed through the ruins of Zealothi civilization. They found small groups of survivors hiding in deep underwater caves. Each rescue felt like a small victory against the overwhelming darkness of what had happened. General Marcus Webb, Lisa's brother and Jake's Marine commander, personally led the search teams. He was a tough soldier who had seen combat before, but even he was shaken by what they found. Captain, we've located a survivor shelter with about 300 Zealothi inside, Marcus reported over the radio. But sir, there are wounded here who won't survive transport to our ships. Jake made the hardest decision of his military career. Bring out who you can. We can't save them all, but we'll save who we can. As the rescue operation continued, Hegemony ships began closing in on their position. Jake knew they had minutes at most before they would be forced to withdraw or be destroyed themselves. That's when Zethtar's signal appeared again on their sensors. The Zealothi elder was alive, but barely. Jake personally took a shuttle down. To retrieve him, he found Zethtar floating in a small air pocket within the ruins of what had once been a great library. The old alien was dying, his body broken by the collapse of his city. But his eyes were still bright with intelligence and purpose. The crystal, Zethtar whispered as Jake carefully lifted him from the water. You must take it to your people. Show them what the hegemony truly is. Jake accepted the small device, its surface warm to the touch. We'll make them pay for this, he promised. Zethtar managed a weak smile. Your species has fire in its heart, Jake Morrison. That fire will be needed in the dark times ahead. He pressed something else into Jake's hand, a small piece of Zealothi artwork that depicted 2 different species swimming together in harmony. Remember us not as victims, but as friends who believed in a better galaxy. Zethtar died in Jake's arms as the shuttle raced back to the Defiance. Jake held the old alien's body and wept openly, not caring who saw his tears. The first alien friend humanity had ever made was gone, murdered by those who claimed to represent galactic civilization. The evacuation ships barely escaped as the hegemony fleet closed in. In total, Jake's flotilla had managed to save 47,000 Zealothi from a population that had once numbered over 2 billion. It was a tiny fraction, but it was all they could do. As the Earth ships jumped to hyperspace, Jake looked back one last time at Aquatica. A planet that had once been a blue jewel was now a smoking ruin. The hegemony had not just killed the Zealothi, they had murdered an entire world. 3 days later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session on Nexus Prime. Ambassador Kyle Nash, who had returned to Earth after the attack, watched the proceedings via encrypted transmission. The hegemony's explanation was as bold as it was false. Warlord Scarth stood before the council, and claimed that the Zealoty had been developing illegal weapons. "We acted to prevent a threat to galactic security," he declared. The Zealoty were in secret alliance with the aggressive humans, planning to destabilize the established order. Kyle watched in disgust as the other council members accepted this obvious lie. Even worse, they used the attack as justification for their next action. "Given the tragic events on Aquatica," announced Vorthok Hive Queen Zareth, "the Council has no choice but to permanently reject humanity's application for membership. Any species that would ally with terrorists cannot be trusted with galactic citizenship." Kyle tried to present the evidence that Sithtar had died to preserve, but his requests to speak were denied. The Council's decision was final. Humanity was banned from galactic civilization, branded as allies of terrorists, based on lies told by the very creatures who had committed genocide. When the session ended, Kyle sent a brief message back to Earth. "They have closed the door on us. Prepare for the worst." On Earth, President Helen Carter called an emergency meeting of the world's leaders. The footage from Aquatica had reached every human settlement, and the reaction was immediate and unified. Humanity had been betrayed by those who claimed to represent justice and order. "The Galactic Council has shown its true face," President Carter announced to the world. "They stand with murderers and call genocide a police action. They brand us as terrorists for trying to save innocent lives. Very well. If they will not accept us as friends, then they will learn to respect us as enemies." In his quarters aboard the Defiance, Jake Morrison studied the crystal that Sethtar had given him. The device contained detailed records of hegemony communications, proving that the attack on the Zealoty had been planned for months. It also contained something else: the locations of hegemony military bases and the defensive capabilities of HFY. Their HOMEWORLD stat. Jake realized that Sethtar had been preparing for this possibility long before the attack began. The wise old alien had known that someday, someone would need to make the hegemony pay for their crimes. He had trusted humanity to be that someone. Admiral Paul Grant's face appeared on Jake's communication screen. "Captain Morrison, you're being promoted to Admiral and given command of the First Strike Fleet. Your orders are to return to Earth immediately." "What's happening, sir?" Jake asked. Grant's expression was grim. "We're going to war, Admiral. The biggest war this galaxy has ever seen, and you're going to help us win it." As the Defiance turned toward Earth, Jake looked once more at the piece of Zealoty art that Sethtar had given him. Two species swimming together in harmony. It was a beautiful dream, but the galaxy had chosen a different path. Jake placed the artwork carefully in his personal safe, next to the crystal containing evidence of the hegemony's crimes. Someday, when justice had been served, he would find a place of honor for both items. But first, there was work to do. The Zealoty had believed in peace and cooperation. They had died for that belief. Now it fell to humanity to ensure that their sacrifice meant something. 2 years had passed since the massacre at Aquatica, and Earth was no longer the same world. President Helen Carter stood in the command center of the new Terran Defense Headquarters, watching displays that showed the greatest military buildup in human history. "Show me the production numbers," she said to her aide. The holographic display filled with statistics that would have seemed impossible just 3 years ago. Earth's factories were producing warships at a rate of 50 per month. The asteroid belt had been turned into a massive mining operation. Every human colony was contributing resources to the war effort. "We now have over 3,000 combat vessels," reported Admiral Paul Grant. "Everything from fighter craft to our new Dreadnought-class battleships. But more importantly, we have something the hegemony doesn't expect." Carter nodded. "Our new weapon systems." Dr. Tony Clark stepped forward, his face showing the exhaustion of someone who had worked nonstop for 2 years. "The quantum torpedoes. are ready for deployment. Each one can punch through Council-era shielding like it's paper. Our new energy weapons are 50% more powerful than anything the hegemony has. And the intelligence network? Carter asked. Better than we hoped, replied Colonel Amy Foster, head of Earth's new Special Operations Division. The surviving Zealothi have been incredibly helpful. They know every detail of hegemony military doctrine. Plus, we've made contact with resistance groups on 17 different worlds. Carter studied the star map showing hegemony space. 4 heavily defended systems, each containing billions of alien civilians. The moral weight of what they were planning pressed down on her shoulders. Casualties? She asked quietly. Admiral. Grant's expression was grim. Military casualties on our side will be heavy. We estimate losing 30% of our fleet in the initial assault. As for hegemony civilian casualties, he paused. That depends on how quickly their governments surrender. President Carter had aged 10 years in the past too. The woman who had once been known for her diplomatic approach to international problems now spent her days planning the largest military operation in galactic history. Any word from the other council species? She asked. 3 have sent secret communications expressing support for our actions, Foster reported. The Ethereals, the Crystalline Union, and surprisingly, the Hive. Confederation. They're providing intelligence, but can't openly support us without risking hegemony retaliation. Carter walked to the window overlooking Earth's capital. Below, she could see ordinary humans going about their daily lives. Children playing in parks, couples walking hand in hand, elderly people feeding birds. All of them depending on her too. Keep them safe in a galaxy that had branded them as enemies. Bring me Admiral Morrison, she said. Jake Morrison had changed as much as Earth itself. The optimistic explorer who had made first contact with the Zealothi was gone, replaced by a hard-eyed military strategist. He entered Carter's office wearing the black uniform of the Terran Strike Fleet, his chest decorated with ribbons representing the refugees he had saved from Aquatica. Madam President, Jake said, saluting. How are our people, Jake? Carter asked, gesturing for him to sit. Ready, Jake replied simply. Every crew member has volunteered for this mission. They all know they might not come home. They don't care. Carter poured 2 cups of coffee, a luxury that had become rare as Earth's resources went to military production. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Jake was quiet for a long moment. I keep thinking about Sethtar, about all the Zealothi children we couldn't save, about the lies the Council told to justify genocide. He looked directly at Carter. The hegemony chose this path when they decided that young species don't deserve to exist. We're just finishing what they started. Operation Reckoning is approved, Carter said formally. You have full authority to proceed. Jake stood and saluted. Again, thank you, Madam President. The Zealothi will be avenged. Across the solar system, humanity's war machine moved into its final phase. On Mars, the new shipyards launched the TDF Retribution, a dreadnought the size of a small city. Captain Betty Stone, formerly a merchant marine officer, now commanded humanity's most powerful warship. All systems check out, reported her chief engineer, Commander Dave Miller. The main guns are charged and ready. This ship can take on a hegemony battle group by itself. Betty nodded grimly. She had lost her brother in the evacuation of a Zealothi colony world. Like many humans, her motivation was deeply personal. Then let's go hunting. In the outer system, General Marcus Webb drilled his marine assault forces. These were no longer the traditional soldiers Earth had known. Advanced genetic modifications had made them stronger and faster. New armor systems let them fight in any environment. Most importantly, they had been trained by Zealothi survivors who knew every weakness of hegemony ground forces. Remember, Marcus told his troops, We're not conquerors. We're liberators. Every world the hegemony controls is held by fear and oppression. Show the civilians that we're there to free them, not enslave them. The Zealoty refugees had been crucial to the war effort. The survivors from Aquatica had provided detailed information about hegemony military systems, government structures, and cultural weaknesses. More importantly, they had helped humanity understand the true scope of the hegemony's crimes. They have been committing genocide for centuries, explained Corval, one of the senior Zealoty survivors. Dozens of species have been wiped out for being too aggressive, or too advanced, or simply for asking too many questions. The galaxy fears them because they have never been challenged. Admiral Morrison studied the intelligence reports in his flagship's war room. The hegemony had 4 core systems, each heavily fortified and defended by massive fleets. Traditional military doctrine would suggest attacking one system at a time, but Jake had a different plan. We hit all 4 simultaneously, he explained. To his staff, they won't expect that level of coordination from a primitive species like us. By the time they realize what's happening, it will be too late to coordinate their defenses. Sir, that divides our forces, pointed out Captain Stone. We'll be outnumbered at each target. Numbers aren't everything, Jake replied. The hegemony has been fighting the same way for 1,000 years. They use overwhelming force and expect their enemies to surrender quickly. They've never faced an opponent willing to accept massive casualties to achieve victory. The final piece of the puzzle was Earth's new artificial intelligence systems. Dr. Clark had worked with captured hegemony technology to create computer systems that could coordinate the assault across multiple star systems in real time. The AI will link every ship in our fleet, Clark explained. Response times will be measured in milliseconds instead of minutes. Our ships will fight as a single organism instead of individual units. As the preparations neared completion, President Carter addressed the human race one final time before the assault began. 2 years ago, we reached out to the galaxy in friendship, she said, her image broadcast to every human settlement. We offered cooperation, peace, and mutual respect. The galaxy's response was to watch in silence as our friends were murdered, and then brand us as terrorists for trying to save innocent lives. The camera showed images from Aquatica, the burned oceans, and floating bodies of Zealoty civilians. Every human watching felt the same rage that had driven them to this moment. Today, we show the galaxy what terrorism really looks like, Carter continued. We go to war not for conquest, but for justice. Not for glory, but for the memory of friends who believed in a better future. The hegemony thinks they have crushed the dream of a peaceful galaxy. They are wrong. We are that dream's guardian, and we will not let it die. In the final hours before the assault, Admiral Morrison visited the memorial chamber aboard his flagship. Inside, holographic images showed every Zealoty who had died at Aquatica. In the center was Zeeth Tar, frozen. In a moment when he had been explaining human poetry to his grandchildren, Jake placed his hand on the memorial wall. We kept our promise, old friend. Justice is coming. The greatest fleet in human history prepared to depart. 4 separate task forces, each commanded by veterans of the Aquatica rescue. Their targets were the hegemony homeworlds, Vorthik Prime, Kreldar, Zephyros, and Drakmor Station Dot, as the ships powered up their engines. Jake opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. All vessels, this is Admiral Morrison. In 6 hours, we will begin the largest military operation in galactic history. We go to make the galaxy safe for young species who dream of reaching the stars. We go to show the universe that genocide has consequences. We go to honor the memory of friends who died believing in our better nature. The fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes and fury of an entire species. Behind them, Earth continued its frantic preparations for the war that would follow. Win or lose, humanity would never again be the innocent species that had first contacted the Zelithy with hopes of friendship. The galaxy was about to learn that when you corner a predator, you don't get submission. You get violence beyond imagination. And humanity, despite its dreams of peace, was the greatest predator the galaxy had ever seen. The attack began at exactly the same moment across 4 different star systems. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship TDF Vengeance as humanity's greatest fleet dropped out of hyperspace around Drakmor Station, the military headquarters of the hegemony. "All ships, weapons free," Jake commanded. "Remember, we're here for justice, not revenge." The first volleys of quantum torpedoes lit up space like new stars being born. The hegemony had never faced weapons like these. Their shields, designed to stop traditional energy weapons, collapsed under the assault. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were torn apart in seconds. At Vorthic Prime, Captain Betty Stone led her dreadnought squadron against the spider-like aliens' massive orbital defense platforms. The TDF Retribution's main guns spoke with voices of thunder, each shot destroying installations the size of cities. "Target their communication arrays first," Betty ordered. "Cut them off from each other." On Kreldar, the bear-like aliens' mountain, fortresses came under assault from General Marcus Webb's ground forces. His enhanced Marines moved through the enemy defenses like ghosts, their new armor systems making them nearly invisible to Krell sensors. "Objective secured," Marcus reported as his forces captured the planetary government center. "Krell leadership is in custody." The Fourth Fleet, commanded by Admiral Lisa Grant, hit Zephyros with devastating precision. The glass-skinned aliens had thought their crystal cities were impregnable. They learned otherwise as human weapons carved through their defenses like a hot knife through ice. But it was at Drakmor Station where the most important battle took place. This was where Warlord Scarth commanded the hegemony's military forces. This was where the orders to destroy Aquatica had originated. Jake's fleet faced the heaviest resistance. Hundreds of hegemony ships defended their command center, fighting with the desperation of those who knew they were facing extinction. For 6 hours, space around Drakmor Station became a hell of energy beams and exploding ships. "Admiral, we've lost 30% of our fleet," reported his tactical officer. "But their defenses are cracking." Jake watched as the massive battle station that had coordinated genocide across the galaxy began to burn. "All ships, focus fire on the command tower. End this." The combined firepower of humanity's remaining ships struck Drakmor Station's control center. In seconds, the structure that had housed 1,000 years of hegemony planning was reduced to glowing debris. Scarth's final transmission was broadcast across the galaxy. "This is impossible. Primitive species cannot defeat the hegemony. We are the guardians of galactic order." Jake's response was simple. "Not anymore." With their command structure destroyed and their homeworlds under occupation, the remaining hegemony forces surrendered within hours. But Jake's mission was not complete. He had one more task to perform. Using Zelithy intelligence, Jake's forces located the secret archives where the hegemony kept records of their crimes. What they found there horrified even battle-hardened soldiers. Files documenting the systematic extermination of 47 different species over the past 5 centuries. Detailed plans for eliminating dozens more, including humanity. "Broadcast it all," Jake ordered. "Every record, every plan, every genocide they committed or planned. Let the galaxy see what we stopped." The evidence transmission reached every inhabited world in known space. At galactic council chambers on Nexus Prime fell silent as representatives watched footage of hegemony commanders laughing about the destruction of entire civilizations. Within hours, 3 council species formally withdrew from the galactic government. The Ethereals, The Crystalline Union and the Hive Confederation announced they could no longer support an organization that had protected genocidal criminals. The humans have shown us the truth, declared Christarch Lumina. We stand with those who fight for justice, not those who enable mass murder. But Jake's greatest moment came when he personally confronted the captured hegemony leadership. The 4 war criminals who had ordered the destruction of Aquatica stood in chains before the human admiral who had sworn to avenge his friends. Called us primitive, Jake said quietly. You said we were too aggressive for galactic civilization. Perhaps you are right. We are aggressive when our friends are threatened. We are primitive enough to believe that genocide is wrong, no matter who commits it. Warlord Scarth tried to maintain his arrogance even in defeat. You think you have won something, human? You are just another conqueror. In time, you will become like us. Jake shook his head. That's where you're wrong. We didn't come here to rule. We came here to judge. The trials of the hegemony leadership were broadcast live across the galaxy. For the first time in galactic history, those who committed genocide faced real consequences. The evidence was overwhelming, the verdict inevitable. When the executions were carried out, Jake personally triggered the devices that ended the lives of those who had murdered the Zealoty. It gave him no pleasure, but it brought a sense of closure that had been missing since Zeethtar died and his arms docked with the hegemony defeated. President Helen Carter addressed the galaxy from Earth. Her words would reshape galactic civilization forever. Fellow beings of the galaxy, she began, humanity did not seek this war. We came to your galactic council in peace, offering friendship and cooperation. We were rejected not because we were unworthy, but because we threatened the power of those who profit from oppression. The camera showed images of liberated worlds where humans worked, alongside alien civilians, to rebuild what the hegemony had destroyed. Today, we announced the formation of the Alliance of Free Worlds, Carter continued. Any species that believes in justice, equality, and the right of all beings to reach for the stars is welcome to join us. We offer what the old council never could, true representation for all, not just the powerful. Within months, 17 species had joined the new alliance. The Zealoty survivors, though few in number, became the alliance's first ambassadors. Their message was simple. This is what the galaxy could have been all along. Jake Morrison, now Supreme Admiral of the Alliance Fleet, established the Terran doctrine that would govern human military action for generations to come. Any government that commits genocide will face the full might of the Alliance. Any species that threatens peaceful civilizations will be stopped. Any organization that profits from oppression will be dismantled. The old Galactic Council tried to maintain its authority, but without the hegemony's military backing, it crumbled within a year. Some species joined the alliance willingly. Others chose to remain independent, but agreed to follow alliance principles. A few tried to maintain the old ways and found themselves isolated and irrelevant. On the anniversary of the Aquatica massacre, Jake stood in the memorial garden that had been built on New Aquatica, a water world terraformed specifically for the Zealoty survivors. Holographic images of every victim floated above pools of crystal-clear water. Corvo, the eldest surviving Zealoty, swam up to where Jake stood. Your species kept its promise, Admiral Norrison. Justice was served, and our people's sacrifice has meaning. Jake nodded, thinking of all the humans who had died to make this moment possible. We learned something important from your people, Corval. That true strength isn't about having the biggest guns or the most ships. It's about standing up for what's right, even when the cost is terrible. The memorial garden was not just for the Zealoty. Holographic displays honored the fallen from every species that had suffered under hegemony rule. But at the center stood a simple statue showing two figures, a human and a Zealoty, reaching toward the stars together. Jake read the inscription aloud. to all who dream of a better galaxy, and to those who gave their lives to make that dream possible. As the ceremony ended, Jake received a message from Earth. A new species had just made first contact with Alliance scouts. They were young, curious, and eager to join the galactic community. Unlike humanity's first contact experience, they would be welcomed with open arms. Another species reaches for the stars, Jake murmured to himself, and we'll be there to help them. The galaxy was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still injustices to address. But the age of genocide was over. The age of fear was ending. Young species no longer had to worry about being exterminated for asking too many questions or advancing too quickly. The Alliance grew stronger each year, not through conquest, but through the simple promise that all beings deserved the chance to reach their potential. Earth's warships still patrolled the space lanes, but now they carried a different message. Where once the galaxy had known only the cold mathematics of power, now there was hope. The hegemony had tried to teach humanity its place in the galactic order. Instead, they had learned that some species cannot be intimidated, some principles cannot be compromised, and some friends are worth any sacrifice to protect. As Jake walked through the memorial garden, he carried within the piece of Zelithy art that Sethtar had given him years ago. Two species swimming together in harmony. It was no longer just a dream. It was the foundation of a new galactic civilization. Humanity had come to the stars as explorers. They had been forced to become warriors. But in the end, they had become something more important, guardians of the innocent and protectors of the dream that all beings could live in peace.
Jake Miller stood at the edge of the observation deck staring out at the vast darkness of space. 20 years ago, he had been a young officer in Earth's Navy. Today, he was the commander of humanity's last hope, hidden deep within the asteroid belt. Titan 7 was not on any official maps. The massive asteroid had been hollowed out by human hands, working in complete darkness to avoid detection. Inside its metal belly, 3,000 humans lived and worked, all dedicated to one purpose: survival. "Commander, the morning reports are ready," said Lisa Anderson, her voice soft in the quiet command center. She was their lead scientist, a woman who had once dreamed of peaceful exploration, but now spent her days building weapons. Jake took the datapad from her hands. "How bad is it today?" The Zalkari destroyed another settlement in the outer colonies. 1,500 humans dead. The rest were taken for slave labor in their mining operations. Jake closed his eyes. Every day brought news of more human deaths. For 20 years, the Zalkari Empire had treated humanity like insects, crushing them whenever they found them. The mighty alien race had destroyed Earth's military in less than 6 months, then scattered the survivors across the solar system. "Any response from Admiral Parker?" Jake asked. "Negative, sir. Still maintaining communication silence as ordered." Communication silence. Those 2 words had become their way of life. The Zalkari monitored all frequencies, and even a single transmission could lead them to their hidden bases. So humans had learned to live in the shadows, building in secret, planning in silence. Ryan Parker had been Earth's greatest admiral before the invasion. Now he led the scattered human resistance from an unknown location, coordinating between the dozen hidden bases spread throughout the system. His orders were simple: remain hidden, build strength, wait for the right moment. "Dr. Anderson, how is the special project progressing?" Jake asked, lowering his voice even though they were alone. Lisa's eyes brightened slightly. "The quantum displacement drive is nearly complete. Final tests show it's 50% faster than Zalkari technology. If we can keep it secret for another month, we'll have our first working prototype." Jake nodded. The quantum drive was their greatest secret, built from stolen Zalkari technology and improved by human engineering. It would give them the ability to strike without warning and disappear before the enemy could respond. "And the plasma torpedoes?" "Fully operational. Mike Thompson's team has managed to solve the power regulation problem. The new design can punch through Zalkari shields with a single hit. Mike Thompson was their chief engineer, a man who barely spoke anymore but could work miracles with alien technology. He had spent 5 years studying captured Zalkari systems, learning their weaknesses, finding ways to turn their own weapons against them. Jake walked to the tactical display, studying the holographic representation of the solar system. Red dots marked known Zalkari positions. Blue dots showed suspected human settlements. The vast majority of the map was empty, dark space where anything could be hiding. "We're not the only ones building in secret," Jake said quietly. Intelligence. Reports suggest at least 12 other resistance bases, each one working on different projects. Do we know what they're building? Admiral Parker keeps everything compartmentalized. If one base is discovered, it can't reveal the others. But rumors speak of entire fleets being constructed in hidden shipyards. Lisa moved closer to the display. "Sometimes I wonder if the Zalkari know we're out here. They must suspect something." "They think we're broken," Jake replied. 20 years of silence has made them complacent. They see us as defeated, scattered, no longer a threat. A soft alarm echoed through the command center. Jake immediately moved to the communication station. Even with their strict silence policy, they maintained passive sensors listening for any sign of danger. "Sir, we're picking up an encrypted burst transmission. Human origin," said Sam Rodriguez, their communications officer. "It's using the old Earth military codes." Jake's heart quickened. Coded transmissions were rare and always meant something important. "Can you decode it?" Sam's fingers flew across the console. After a tense minute, he looked up. "It's from Wolf Base. They've completed their first stealth warship. The Titan's Revenge is operational." The command center fell silent. Everyone knew about the Titan's Revenge project. For years, rumors had circulated about a ghost ship being built in the deepest reaches of space. A vessel designed specifically to hunt Zalkari patrols. "Anything else?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. The message includes coordinates for a rendezvous. Admiral Parker wants all base commanders to prepare for Operation Silent Thunder." Operation Silent Thunder. Jake had heard whispers of this plan. The moment when humanity would finally break its silence and strike back against their oppressors. Lisa stepped forward. "Sir, if we're going active, we need to accelerate our timeline. The quantum drive can be ready in 2 weeks if we push harder." Jake considered this. 20 years of hiding, 20 years of preparation. His people were exhausted, living in cramped quarters, eating recycled food, breathing recycled air. But they were also angry. Every human in the base had lost family. To the Zalkari, every one of them wanted vengeance. "Begin accelerated production schedules," Jake ordered. "I want our drive ready for integration as soon as possible. And notify all department heads we're moving to pre-operational status." As his staff hurried to carry out his orders, Jake returned to the observation deck. Somewhere out there, the Zalkari Empire continued its reign of terror, confident in their dominance. They had no idea that in the darkness, humanity was preparing to speak. And when humans spoke again, they would speak with the voice of war. Jake touched the cold metal wall of their hidden base. "Soon," he whispered to the darkness, "soon you'll know you should have finished us when you had the chance." In the depths of space, other commanders in other hidden bases were receiving similar messages. The silent years were coming to an end. The Zalkari had thought humanity would stay broken forever. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Alex Chen never thought he would see the day. Standing on the bridge of the Titan's Revenge, he could hardly believe the moment had arrived. For 5 years, he had watched this ship grow from metal beams to the most dangerous weapon humanity had ever built. "Captain, all systems are green," reported Sam Rodriguez from his weapons station. The young lieutenant had trained for this moment since he was 15, when the Zalkari had killed his entire family. "Plasma torpedoes are loaded and ready." "Excellent. Mike, what's our engine status?" Mike Thompson looked up from his engineering console. "Quantum drive is running smooth, sir. We can go from 0 to light speed in 3 seconds. The Zalkari won't know what hit them." Alex nodded. The Titan's Revenge was unlike any ship ever built. At 400 meters long, it was smaller than a Zalkari cruiser, but packed with stolen alien technology improved by human innovation. Its dark hull absorbed all radar, making it invisible to scanners. Its quantum drive could jump to faster than light travel instantly, something even the Zalkari couldn't do. Dr. Emma Davis emerged from the science bay carrying a datapad. "Captain, I've finished the final calibrations on our targeting systems. We can now track Zalkari ships from twice their detection range." "Good work, Doctor." Alex turned to the main view screen where their first target waited in the distance. A Zalkari supply convoy, 3 ships moving slowly through the asteroid belt. "All hands. This is your captain. Today we strike back. Today we show the Zalkari that humanity is not dead." The bridge crew cheered quietly. After 20 years of hiding, they were finally going to fight. "Sir, incoming message from Admiral Parker," Sam announced. "Real-time quantum communication." "Put it through." Ryan Parker's face appeared on the screen. The old admiral looked tired but determined. "Captain Chen, you are cleared for Operation First Strike. Make it count." "Yes, sir. We won't let you down." The transmission ended. Alex took a deep breath. "Helm, set course for the convoy. Engage stealth mode." The ship hummed quietly as it moved forward, its advanced systems masking their approach. In the main hall, 60 Marines prepared their weapons. If boarding became necessary, they were ready. "Distance to target?" Alex asked. 5,000 kilometers in closing, Tom Harris reported from Tactical. The convoy consists of 2 cargo ships and 1 destroyer escort, standard Zalkari formation. Alex studied the tactical display. Zalkari destroyers carried enough firepower to level a city. Normally, 1 destroyer could easily destroy 10 human ships, but the Titan's revenge was not normal. "Amy, prepare torpedo spread. 3 plasma warheads, targeting Sequence Alpha." Lieutenant Amy Rogers worked quickly at her console. "Torpedoes armed. Lock confirmed on all targets." "Good. Wait for my mark." Alex watched the distance counter tick down. 1,500 kilometers. 1,000. 500. "Sir," Sam reported. "The convoy is changing course. They're moving toward the human farming settlement on asteroid Delta 7. Alex felt his blood run cold. Delta 7 was one of the peaceful colonies, home to families who grew food for the resistance. They had no weapons, no defenses. ETA to Delta 7? At their current speed, 30 minutes. 30 minutes meant 300 lives. Men, women, children, all working to keep humanity fed and alive. "Change of plans," Alex announced. "We're going loud. Full power to engines. I want us between that convoy and the settlement in 10 minutes. "Sir, if we go full speed, they'll detect us," Mike warned. "Then let them. Target the destroyer first. Kill shot." The Titan's revenge leaped forward, its engines blazing. Alarms immediately sounded in the Zalkari convoy as their sensors picked up the human warship. "Incoming transmission from the Zalkari destroyer," Sam reported. "They're demanding we surrender." "Tell them to bite me," Alex replied coldly. "Amy, fire torpedoes." 3 streaks of light erupted from the Titan's revenge, racing toward the enemy destroyer. The Zalkari ship tried to activate shields, but the human torpedoes were too fast. The first one hit dead center, punching through the alien shields like paper. The second and third followed milliseconds later. The destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "Direct hit, enemy destroyer destroyed," Amy shouted. "Don't celebrate yet. Target those cargo ships. I want them disabled, not destroyed." 2 Zalkari cargo vessels tried to flee, but they were slow and heavily loaded. The Titan's revenge pursued, its guns firing precisely aimed shots that knocked out their engines. "Mike, prepare boarding shuttles. I want to know what those ships are carrying." "Yes, sir." 10 minutes later, Marine Commander Steve Blake led a team onto the first cargo ship. What they found made Alex's jaw clench with rage. "Captain, Steve's detizing mum," voice came through the comm. "You need to see this. These aren't supply ships. They're slave transports. There are 300 humans in here, including children." Alex closed his eyes, feeling sick. The convoy hadn't been heading to attack. Delta 7. They were going to enslave everyone there. "Free them, Commander." Get all humans back to the settlement. Sir, there's something else. The Zalkari crew has data about other human settlements. Looks like they've been mapping our locations for months. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. Secure that data, and Blake? Yes, sir? Leave no Zalkari alive. After the boarding teams finished their work, Alex stood before his crew. Today was just the beginning. We've drawn first blood, and the Zalkari will know humanity is back in the fight. Dr. Davis approached him quietly. Captain, that destroyer got off a distress signal before it was destroyed. The Zalkari will send reinforcements. Good, Alex replied. Let them come. We'll be ready. He turned to Sam. Send a message to all resistance bases. Operation Silent Thunder is now active. The silent years are over. As the Titan's revenge escorted the freed humans to safety, Alex looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Zalkari Empire was about to learn that their greatest mistake wasn't defeating humanity. It was letting them live long enough to build this ship. General Karen Williams stared at the tactical display with growing frustration. 5 Zalkari supply convoys had vanished in the past month. Each time, the same pattern. A ghost ship would appear, strike hard, and disappear before reinforcements could arrive. Another convoy destroyed, her aide reported. The Skarthak sector. All 3 ships lost. The destroyer Gralnath sent a partial transmission before going dark. What did it say? Human warship, unknown class. They mentioned something about silent weapons before the signal cut out. Karen's forearms moved in an agitated pattern, something her species did when disturbed. Impossible. We destroyed the human military 20 years ago. Their remaining population is scattered farmers and miners. Perhaps they rebuild. No! Karen slammed 2 of her fists on the command table. Humans are broken. This must be pirates using old Earth technology. Send 3 battle groups to hunt this ghost ship. Meanwhile, 5 systems away, Dan Foster reviewed intelligence reports in his cramped quarters aboard the Titan's Revenge. The former Earth spy had spent years building networks within Zalkari territory. Now those networks were paying off. Captain Chen to the bridge, came the announcement. Dan gathered his data and headed up. Alex was studying star charts when Dan arrived. What do you have for me, Dan? Good news and bad news. The good news is we've confirmed the location of the main Zalkari forward base. It's in the Keltar system, heavily defended but vulnerable to our type of attack. And the bad news? The Zalkari have increased patrols by 300%. They're also starting to coordinate better. We had 2 close calls last week. Alex nodded thoughtfully. Amy, what's our tactical situation? Lieutenant Amy Rogers pulled up her analysis. We've hit 12 targets successfully. 0 losses on our side. But the enemy is adapting. They're using new scanning techniques and their response times are improving. Mike, can our stealth systems handle the upgraded scanners? Mike Thompson looked up from his engineering station. For now, yes. But they're getting closer to detecting us each time. I need more time to upgrade our systems. Alex made his decision. Then we hit them harder and faster. Dan, tell Admiral Parker we're ready for the coordinated system strikes. Dan smiled grimly. This was what they'd been waiting for. 3 days later, Admiral Ryan Parker gathered his commanders in a secure quantum communication conference. Jake Miller from Titan 7, Steve Blake commanding ground forces, and dozens of other resistance leaders appeared as holograms. Operation Thunderstorm begins in 48 hours, Parker announced. We will hit 15 Zalkari positions simultaneously, across 5 systems. Each base will activate according to their mission parameters. Steve Blake, now promoted to Lieutenant Colonel, spoke first. Ground forces are ready, sir. We have sleeper agents in 12 Zalkari slave camps ready to activate. Jake. Miller nodded. Titan 7 has completed our quantum drive modifications. We can deploy our new stealth fighters within the hour. Excellent. Alex, the Titan's Revenge will lead the attack on the Keltar forward base. You'll have support from 3 other stealth ships. 3 others? Alex asked, surprised. Did you think you were the only ones building warships? Parker smiled slightly. The Silent Storm, the Night Hunter, and the Shadow Strike have all completed their trials. Alex felt a surge of hope. 4 stealth warships meant they could hit harder than ever before. One more thing, Parker continued. Intelligence reports that Zalkari Admiral Rakthor will be inspecting the Keltar base in 3 days. If we can eliminate him and destroy their forward base, the implications were clear. Rakthor was the architect of Earth's defeat, responsible for millions of human deaths. We'll get him, Alex promised. As the conference ended, Beth Turner, the Marine commander aboard the Titan's Revenge, approached Alex. Sir, my teams are ready. We've been training for base assault operations. Good. Work with Dan on the layout of the Keltar facility. I want every entrance mapped, every weak point identified. For the next 48 hours, the Titan's Revenge and its sister ships moved into position. Across human space, resistance cells activated ancient communication systems. Sleeper agents received their orders. Hidden weapons caches were opened. In the Keltar system, Admiral Rakthor reviewed security reports, unaware that death was approaching. His massive command ship, the Worldbreaker, sat at the center of a defensive formation that had never been challenged. Admiral, his second-in-command, approached. Our scouts report unusual energy signatures in the outer system. Very faint almost. Like what? Like ships running under stealth protocols. But humans don't have that technology. Rakthor made a dismissive gesture. Sensor ghosts. The local asteroid belt creates false readings. At precisely midnight station time, the attack began. The Titan's Revenge materialized from dark space, its quantum torpedoes already firing. The silent storm hit from a different angle, targeting power stations. The Night Hunter and Shadow Strike focused on the defense platforms. Contact multiple human warships. The alarm system screamed across the Zalkari base. Rakthor watched in shock as his defenses crumbled. How is this possible? His answer came in the form of a quantum torpedo, striking his command deck. The last thing the Admiral saw was a human ship's weapons lock symbol on his screen. On the Titan's Revenge, Alex watched the Worldbreaker explode. Target destroyed. All ships, begin Phase 2. Full assault on the base. Marine dropships launched. From all 4 stealth ships. Ground teams that had been training for this moment burst from hiding places throughout the facility. Former slaves grabbed weapons and turned on their captors. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Keltar forward base was in human hands, and Admiral Rakthor was dead. As reports came in from other systems, the scope of humanity's comeback became clear. 15 Zalkari installations destroyed or captured. 3 supply hubs seized. 200,000 human slaves freed. Sir, Sam Rodriguez reported, Admiral Parker wants to speak with you. Parker's hologram appeared and he was smiling. Outstanding work, Captain. All operations were successful. The Zalkari Empire is in chaos. Thank you, sir. What are our orders? Rest and refit. The hunt phase is over. Now comes the revelation. Alex looked at his crew, then out at the stars. They had gone from hunted to hunters, but their war was far from over. President John Martinez stood before the United Resistance Council, looking at faces he hadn't seen in 20 years. The secret meeting was taking place in the newly liberated Keltar base, where the smell of victory still hung in the air. Today marks the end of our silence, John announced. We're not hiding anymore. We're coming out of the shadows with a force the Zalkari never expected. Ambassador Claire Johnson rose from her seat. She had spent years building diplomatic connections with other species under Zalkari rule. Mr. President, I've received confirmation from the Vegan Federation and the Sirius Coalition. Both are ready to join our cause. Excellent news. Admiral Cooper, what's our military status? Admiral Ian Cooper activated the holographic display, revealing the true scope of humanity's secret preparations. 50 blue dots appeared across the map, each representing a fully operational warship. Gasps echoed through the chamber. 50 warships? Major Tom Harris asked, disbelief in his voice. How? We built them in dark space, Ian explained. Hidden shipyards beyond the system's edge, each one equipped with quantum drives, stealth technology and weaponry superior to Zalkari standards. John walked to the display. The Titan's Revenge, Silent Storm, Night Hunter, and Shadow Strike were just the advanced scouts. Our main fleet has been waiting for this moment. Claire leaned forward. What about the other species? The ones still under Zalkari control? Our intelligence shows widespread unrest, John replied. The Draken in the Outer Rim are ready to revolt. The Earthian colonies want freedom. The synthetic beings in the core worlds demand rights. Admiral Cooper highlighted several sectors on the map. We've been coordinating with resistance movements across 12 different species. When we move, it won't be humans alone. Tom Harris stood up. My ground forces are already mobilizing. We have sleeper cells in every major Zalkari holding. Over 50,000 trained soldiers waiting for activation orders. The president nodded. Then let's give them those orders. Admiral Parker has authorized Operation Final Horizon. We launch in 6 hours. 6 hours later, Lieutenant Emma Davis monitored systems aboard the Liberation flagship, humanity's largest warship. Built in secret over 10 years, it was half again, as large as any Zalkari battleship. Captain Clark, all systems are operational, Emma reported. Quantum drives are running at full capacity. Captain Jack Clark reviewed the tactical display. How's our stealth field? Perfect, sir. 50 ships moving in formation, and the Zalkari don't suspect a thing. Jack smiled. Excellent. Open a channel to all ships. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Clark to all units. We've spent 20 years preparing for this moment. Today we show the galaxy that humanity refuses to be broken. Engage. Across 12 star systems, human warships materialized from dark space simultaneously. The coordinated attack was unlike anything the Zalkari had ever faced. In the Arcturus system, the Zalkari 4th Fleet was conducting routine patrols when 15 human warships appeared around them. Contact. Unknown vessels detected. The Zalkari, commander shouted. All ships, battle stations. But the human ships were already firing. Quantum torpedoes tore through shields. Plasma cannons melted armor plating. In less than 10 minutes, the entire Zalkari fleet was either destroyed or disabled. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Zalkari Empire, spread thin and overconfident, found itself under attack everywhere at once. On the ground, Major Tom Harris led the liberation of Earth Station Gamma, one of the largest slave facilities. His troops moved with precision, using knowledge gained from years of planning. Bravo team, secure the power station, Tom commanded through his comm. Charlie team, free the prisoners. Delta team, capture the command center alive. Freed humans joined the assault, taking weapons from fallen Zalkari guards. What had been designed as a simple rescue operation became a full uprising. Ambassador Claire Johnson stood on the bridge of humanity's diplomatic vessel, watching representatives from 30 different species join via quantum communication. The Zalkari Empire has ruled through fear for too long, Claire addressed the assembly. Today we unite in common purpose. Today we forge a new future. The Draken warrior poet spoke first. Humanity's courage has sparked hope across the stars. The Draken stand with you. One by one, species that had suffered under Zalkari rule pledged their support. The Empire's greatest strength, controlling multiple worlds, became its fatal weakness as rebellions erupted everywhere. Back on the Liberation's bridge, reports flooded in. Sir, Emma announced, we're receiving surrender requests from 26 Zalkari outposts. They're overwhelmed by coordinated ground uprisings. Any word from their high command? Jack asked. Negative. But our scouts report massive fleet movements from their capital worlds. They're preparing for a major counteroffensive. Jack studied the tactical display. They had achieved more in 6 hours than anyone had imagined possible. But the real test was coming. President Martinez appeared on the main screen. Captain Clark, Admiral Parker has confirmed enemy fleet movements. They're massing for an attack on the Vega system. Understood, Mr. President. What are our orders? Concentrate all forces on Vega. If they want a final battle, we'll give them one, but this time we fight on our terms. Jack turned to his crew. You heard the President. Set course for Vega. All ships, form up for jump. As the human fleet prepared for the decisive battle, Jack allowed himself a moment of reflection. 20 years earlier, Earth's military had been crushed in 6 months. Now humanity commanded the largest alliance the galaxy had seen in generations. The silent years were over. The revelation was complete, and the Zalkari Empire was about to learn what happened when you thought humanity would stay silent forever. "Sir," Emma reported, "all ships are ready. Jump drives are charged. Then let's go finish this war. All ships, execute jump." 50 human warships vanished from space, heading toward their destiny in the Vega system. Behind them, a galaxy full of newly freed worlds cheered their arrival and prepared for the coming storm. Admiral Sarah Matthews looked at the tactical display as humanity's entire war fleet assembled in the Vega system. 50 human warships, 30 Draken fighters, 20 Vegan destroyers, and dozens of ships from other liberated species. The largest combined force in galactic history. "Ma'am, enemy contacts confirmed," Captain Kevin Scott reported from his position on the bridge of the Retribution, their flagship. 120 Zalkari warships entering the system. They're forming attack formation. Sarah nodded. "Position? The Titans' revenge at the van. They've earned first blood in the final battle." On the Titans' revenge, Alex Chen received the orders with grim satisfaction. His crew had started this war of liberation. It was fitting they would lead the final charge. "Amy, target their command ship," Alex ordered. "The big one in the center." Lieutenant Amy Rogers locked onto the massive Zalkari dreadnought. Target acquired. The Darkness Eternal, flagship of the Imperial Fleet. Dr. Nathan Kim, monitoring. From the science station, called out, "Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures consistent with a doomsday weapon. They're desperate enough to try a galaxy killer." Alex made his decision instantly. "All ships, priority target is the enemy command vessel. They have a doomsday weapon. We cannot let them use it." Meanwhile, on the Darkness Eternal, the last Zalkari Supreme Commander prepared for a final gambit. "If we cannot rule the galaxy, then the galaxy burns with us," he declared. "Charge the Quantum Destroyer." Lieutenant Colonel Beth Turner led her Marines through the boarding tubes as the space battle raged. "Move fast, people. Secure that weapon. Control room." Ground troops fought their way through corridors filled with Zalkari resistance. Each step cost lives, but human determination pushed them forward. Captain Steve Blake coordinated multiple boarding parties across different enemy ships. Teams Alpha through Delta converge on their shield generators. Teams Echo and Foxtrot follow Turner to the Doomsday device. The space battle intensified as ships from both sides traded devastating fire. Human quantum torpedoes met Zalkari, plasma beams, shields flickered and died. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. "Direct hit on our port shield," Mike Thompson called out from engineering. "Shield generators at 40%. Alex gritted his teeth. "Hold her together, Mike. Emma, can we punch through their shields?" Dr. Emma Davis calculated rapidly. "Yes, but we need to overload our plasma cannons. It'll drain our power for 15 seconds. "Do it." The Titan's revenge unleashed everything it had. Triple-charged plasma beams struck the Darkness Eternal's shields, creating cascading failures. For a moment, the massive dreadnought was vulnerable. "Now," Alex shouted. "All ships concentrate fire." Every human, Draken, and Vegan weapon zeroed in on the exposed dreadnought. The combined firepower was overwhelming. The Darkness Eternal's hull buckled, cracked, then began to break apart. Inside, Beth Turner's team fought through smoke and fire. "The weapon control room, go, go, go!" They burst through the final door to find Zalkari technicians frantically working at control panels. Without hesitation, the Marines opened fire. Bodies fell, consoles sparked, and alarms wailed. "Kim, shut that thing down!" Beth shouted to their tech specialist. Dr. Nathan Kim had provided detailed instructions for just this situation. The Marine technician worked frantically while the ship shook around them. "Almost got it. There!" The doomsday weapon powered down, just as the Darkness Eternal suffered a catastrophic core breach. "All teams evacuate immediately," Beth ordered. "This ship is going critical." Marine shuttles launched from the dying dreadnought as their motherships provided covering fire. Beth was the last one off, diving into a shuttle as explosions rocked the ship behind her. The destruction of their flagship sent shockwaves through the Zalkari fleet. Ships began to drift without purpose. Communications broke down. Several vessels attempted to flee, but the Allied forces had surrounded them completely. Admiral Sarah Matthews surveyed the battlefield. "Open a channel to all remaining Zalkari ships." "Channel open, ma'am. This is Admiral Matthews of the United Free Worlds Fleet. Your flagship is destroyed. Your doomsday weapon is disabled. Your empire is finished. Surrender now, and we guarantee safe passage for your surviving crews." One by one, Zalkari ships powered down their weapons and transmitted surrender codes. The 2-decade war was over. 3 days later, the first Free Galactic Summit convened on the neutral world of Harmony Prime. President John Martinez addressed representatives from 40 species, including several Zalkari, who had defected during the final battle. "The age of empire is over," John declared. "Today begins the era of cooperation. We offer the hand of friendship to all, including former enemies who choose peace." Ambassador Claire Johnson had spent days negotiating the terms. "The Zalkari will pay reparations to all affected worlds. Their military will be reduced but not eliminated. They become equal members of our new alliance, not conquered subjects." Captain Alex Chen stood at the ceremony where Jake Miller and other resistance leaders received the Galactic Medal of Freedom. As medals were pinned to uniforms, Alex thought of all those lost over 20 years of struggle. Admiral Ian Cooper announced the transformation of the combined fleet into a peacekeeping force. "Never again will one species dominate through military might. Our strength comes from unity." Dr. Lisa Anderson presented humanity's most significant gift to the new alliance: the quantum drive technology, freely shared with all species. Knowledge belongs to everyone. Together we'll explore and build instead of conquer and destroy. Lieutenant Colonel Tom Harris supervised the dismantling of slave camps across a dozen worlds. Millions of beings took their first breaths of freedom. In years, tears streaming down faces of every species imaginable. Years later, children of all races learned in schools about the silent years, when humanity prepared in darkness for the day they would speak. They learned that strength came not from dominance but from the courage to help others find their voice. The Titan's revenge became a monument orbiting Earth, a reminder that from the depths of defeat, hope could rise. Visitors from across the galaxy came to see the ship that fired the first shot in the War of Liberation. Sarah Matthews, now Supreme Admiral of the United Fleet, addressed new graduates at the Galactic Defense Academy. 20 years ago, they thought humanity would stay silent. They learned that silence was not surrender. It was preparation. May future generations remember that true strength lies in standing with others, not over them. Above them, the stars shone brightly on a galaxy finally at peace. The silent years were over. The age of unity had begun.